Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rise and Lead Christian Leadership's Perspectives. I am your host, ChèRee Wiley, founder and CEO of Diverse Perspectives, where we are dedicated to empowering growth, transforming lives, and reimagining success one client at a time. I am so excited to be back here with you today to talk to you about a very compelling conversation that is very near and dear to my heart right now in this season, because I think that a lot of times we allow our struggles to prevent us from moving forward. And unfortunately, struggle is a part of life. I would say unfortunately and fortunately, because it is in our struggle that we grow. It is in our discomfort that we grow. And learning how to navigate our struggles is a huge part of what makes us an impactful leader. It is a huge part of what makes us impactful in general, whether we're leading or we're just participating. We have to understand that we cannot fall apart every time the wind blows this way or that, because it is a part of our development. And we are dedicated to our development as Christian leaders. We are dedicated to our development as members of the kingdom, as we are pushing God's agenda, understanding that it's so many examples. When we look at leaders in the Bible of people who've gone through some serious trials and tribulations and come out on the other side because they understand that there is character that is built in the midst. When we think about our tests and how it leads us to a testimony, it is what is building us up so that we can continue to move forward and so we can go to new levels, because every level presents different challenges. And so if we can't handle the challenges on the lower level, then how in the world will we handle them when we get to the next level of where it is that we're trying to go? And so that is what I want to spend some time talking about today. How, as leaders, do we continue to show up in the midst of struggle? Do we continue to press? Do we continue to lead with integrity, to lead with compassion, to lead without taking our issues out on other people, which happens a lot with leaders? And you're human, but understanding that you being your humanness doesn't give you a pass to really pay for pain. Your pain to be part of. That's part of your journey. And so being really mindful of what that is. And it's a real thing, a real weight that we carry, because the weight of leadership doesn't pause for pain. You don't stop being a leader because you're in pain. If you're running a company or you're running, a department, or there are people that are relying on you, whether it's in your home or outside of your home, they still need what they need in spite of your own personal things that are going on. And understanding that there are different types of attacks, different types of issues, struggles that we deal with on a regular basis. And some of them are spiritual and some of them are natural. And some of them times it's a combination of both. But understanding how you show up matters. And yes, you all know I am the queen of take care of yourself, because you need to. We all know that the balls are going to keep rolling whether you take out the time to make sure you're good, but you need to make sure you're good, right? Like if you had to stop today and take a pause, if I have to take a day off, if I have to, delegate some things to other people because I got some stuff going on, that's what needs to happen so that you can continue to get to a place where you can show up as your best self. Because we cannot pour from a cup that is empty. And so we have to take out the time to evaluate where we are on the journey in order for us to show up well, but understanding there are seasons where we have to push past the pain in certain aspects. And that doesn't mean that you don't express to people, there's some things going on right now. I need to take a minute. Being transparent with people is very important in all seasons that we're in. But understanding that there are times when you are going to have to lead past those issues. You're going to have to show up even when it's not easy. And it's important to really listen and pay attention. I'm not talking about these toxic environments where, you have people who don't understand that you are human and you have human needs. But I'm talking about the fact that when I'm on assignment and the attack is very much connected to what that assignment is in the attack is trying to stop the assignment, I'm going to have to push past that. And I have talked about this so many times in other podcast episodes. It's the way I live my life. Discernment is real. You need to be listening. If you are a Christian leader, again, I am talking specifically to Christian leaders, people who understand the connection between God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit and how all of this comes into play. For those of us who understand and who know the voice of the Lord, asking what it is that I should do in this season is very, very important. Because there have been times when I will share a recent experience where I've been in the midst of going through something, and God is like, this is a test. And I need you to decide how you're going to handle this particular test. Are you going to fall apart, get in the bed, and never come out? I'm going to lay here until it gets better and possibly lay there and die. Or I'm going to use the tools which have been given to me, which includes prayer, which includes, really going before the Lord, which includes handing your body over to God to do the work. He created your body. He knows what's going on. And that doesn't mean you don't seek a doctor, you don't seek medical, you seek medical help. But understand that there's a limit. The doctor and the medicine, science, all that stuff can only go so far. How many times have we seen instances where people have literally, the doctor been like, there's nothing else we can do, and God stepped in. And those same people are still here today after the doctors said there's nothing else we can do. It happened with my grandmother years ago before she finally did transition in 2018. But many times y'all need to come say y'all goodbyes. We believe this is it. Yada, yada, yada. And God brought her right on back like nothing ever happened. So understanding what season you're in and how you push past that, how this one test becomes part of your testimony is just as important for your leadership and the example that you lead, that you show to the people that are following you. How did she handle this? For people who are not where you are, how did you, watching you and to see how you handled the situation could be the difference of literal life and death for them. Could be the difference of them saying, I'm not going to give up on myself. I'm not going to believe the report that I received. I'm going to trust God, because if God can do this for her, if God can do this for him, why can't God do this for me? If God could heal my brother or sister of cancer and they led through it, continue to show up, continue to press, even when it wasn't easy, why can't God do that for me? That's the example that we're setting. And so literally understanding that because we carry that burden of being examples for others, there may be times where we have to push even when it's not easy. Also, also in this season of understanding, when you acknowledge what this is, are we staying focused? Because sometimes our tests, our struggles can be a distraction. What is my assignment? What am I called to? And why is it that in this season, this is happening? What was I on the edge of that now I'm not pursuing anymore because this thing has come and it feels like it's taking me out? I need to stay focused on the assignment because as leaders, we are always on assignment. And we have to be sure that we are guarding our minds. What are you speaking out of your mouth in this season? What are you thinking in this season? If you feel like this attack is going to take you out, guess what? It will. Because in that moment, you have come into agreement spiritually with what is happening to you. And I'm not talking about being delusional. I'm talking about when your mind is focused on what you know to be true, what you have been, the promises of God. The fact that you are the type of leader, Christian leader, that actually reads the word and has the word hid in your heart. In those moments, the word is what is coming forth. The word is what we are repeating over and over again and encouraging our spirits. Positivity, I shall live and not die. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. It's something as simple as by his stripes I am healed. Because every stripe that Jesus took on his back on the cross was for your healing. Speaking with authority, not in fear. Because your spirit recognizes the difference. Your spirit recognizes when I am afraid that this is it. And when I know that God has plans for me. His plans are to prosper me. And for me to achieve an expected end. It is not for me to die right here in this bed. It's not for this illness to take me out. It's not for this situation to take me under. It's not for me to feel that life is so desperate that I take my own life. For depression to become so overwhelming because I have accepted my lot, that I give up. Because that's the point. The test, the trial, the struggle comes so that you will be discouraged and you will give up. And when you give up, you never reach the place where God has called you to be. You don't pursue forward. Your story ends when you give up. I've never seen a person who gave up who still accomplished what they needed to accomplish at some point in time. Now, I've seen people who give up at one point and then have a renewing of their minds and change the way that they look at life and then go forward. But I've never seen anyone in the midst of a depressed, downtrodden, given up space that is able to go forth and do what they're called to do, because there's no energy for that. There's no motivation for that. To them, it's over. And God is like, wait a minute. You had the opportunity to do something different. If we think about Job, for example, was in a position of leadership. He was leading his family. He was leading people. He had all the land, and he was wealthy. He was prosperous. And God said, have you considered my servant Job? When the enemy was going around, the devil, Satan, was seeking who he could mess with. Have you considered my servant Job? Because I know Job can handle it. That's what God was saying. That's what he was saying. I know Job can handle it. Job literally lost everything in a short span of time, including his children. And still, he made the decision that he wasn't going to give up on God. He believed that God had a reason for why he was doing what he was doing, and he was just going, you know, keep pushing, even though it was painful, even though it hurt, because the assignment was bigger than his circumstances. He was meant to be an example. We're still talking about Job all this time later because he was an example. Understanding that the assignment is greater than your current situation is key to keeping your situation from running you over. I got work to do. I can't stop right here. I can't fall apart. I can't lay down and die. The vision is what keeps me motivated. The vision is what helps me to get out of bed on days when it's painful to do so. To keep showing up, even when it's not easy. Showing up when you don't have enough. Showing up when it feels like the whole world is over. It's just creeping over your shoulders like a wave. It's like it just keeps riding with you. And I'm speaking from experience because I've been there. And you still are like, no, this is what I am called to do. This is what is purposed. I'm experiencing a lot of turmoil. Okay. Clearly, something good is about to happen. Because in my experience, every time I go through a significant test or trial or struggle, I come out on the other side in a better position than I was when I started. I also believe that when we are encountering struggle, God is watching how we respond in the midst of it. Another reminder of this is Joseph. God loved Joseph. And guess what? Joseph ended up going through it to get to his assignment. If Joseph had not been, his brothers hadn't been jealous of him, if he hadn't been put in the pit, if he hadn't been sold into slavery, if he hadn't ended up in prison for a while, not for a week, for a while, he would not have been in position to save all of Egypt and his family. He wouldn't have got there. If everything for Joseph had been all sunshine and rainbows, he would have still been over there with his daddy and them, with his pretty coat of many colors, and everybody would have starved. He would have starved in his nice, pretty coat over there with his family. That wasn't God's plan for him. He needed to use Joseph to save so many people. And so when you are thinking about your struggles as if God is punishing you, flip it around to say, God, oh my goodness, what is getting ready to happen? Because if this is where I am right now, I know you have so much in store for me. This is a sign and an example of how I will not allow the enemy to take anything else from me, because I now understand exactly what I'm made of. It's some real tough stuff happening over here. And just like going back to the story of Job, when you done, double for your trouble. Joseph got double for his trouble. And so we have to really stay mindful, stay the course of understanding that what God has for us, what He's doing for us in this season, requires us to go through a little bit of discomfort. It's necessary. It's a necessary part of this particular journey because God is trying to see, what are you really made of? He knows what you're made of. He does. You don't know. You're the one who doesn't know exactly what you're made of. You're the one who is uncertain about what you can handle. You're the one who thinks that if trials and tribulations come, you can't handle it. When the reality is that you don't want to handle it. And nobody signs up to be uncomfortable. I have yet to see that. The person who's just like, oh, sign me up for the discomfort track. Like, that just doesn't exist. Because people like to be comfortable. Everybody wants to be comfortable. But growth does not happen. Even when you think about trees, like, pruning has to happen for the tree to grow. I have a plant that is in my office that is trying to take over the office. The vines are so long, it's just crazy. We're gonna transport her outside because she needs more space. But there are times where I have to pull off some of the leaves for her to continue to flourish. And in those seasons of your pruning, you're going to experience discomfort. It's not going to feel good. How are you going to show up in those moments? This is the time where, we, as we get older, we start you feeling your aches and your pains and this, and today is not a whatever kind of day. And as people get even more old, even more with age, they start to experience that. And that's sometimes what they take out on people. This is when people, God is looking at all of that. Are you ready to cuss everybody in the office out because you don't feel well today? Or chew them out, or however you express yourself, because I don't curse, but I could definitely show up somewhere and choose to be in a bad mood and be hateful and nasty and short and snapping at people or whatever. It's a choice. I choose not to show up that way. I choose not to treat people in that manner. People don't deserve that, no matter what I'm going through. Could be having the worst day of my life. That doesn't mean that they deserve to experience me in that manner. And so we are constantly making choices, but do not allow your situation, your struggle, to disqualify you for your assignment. Because there are times when we choose to go a little bit too far, and now you have put yourself in a position where people don't respect you, people have bad things to say about you, whatever the case may be. I have experienced a lot of things, even before people acknowledged me that I was a leader. People have said things, people have done things, people have acted a certain way, people have not taken my feelings into account, or even once becoming a leader, didn't want to acknowledge my leadership because they felt like I was too young, or I was too this, or I was too that. And I had to still make the choice not to respond in the same way that they were responding to me. Just because sister such and such looks at you and rolls her eyes don't mean I gotta roll my eyes back. No. I'ma still speak. How you doing, sis? If they're open to a hug, I'll give you one of those. I still bless you. I go about my business because I understand my assignment requires me to stay in a posture of love all the time, even when I don't feel like it. Are there times I have to step back and be quiet and have a little conversation with myself? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that they need to be privy to whatever that is that's going on. I'm having a personal moment that has nothing to do with them. If I need to step away, fine. That doesn't mean that I'm going to treat them some kind of way when I see them again, or behave a certain way, or whatever the case may be. No, because I understand what my assignment is. I'm always going to be operating in my assignment. Now, I'm not going to stand there while you smack me in the face or knock me upside my head. Absolutely not. I got good common sense. But I'm not going to let, because I have said this forever, and I will say this probably until the Lord decides that He wants me to be closer to Him than I am currently. All behavior has meaning. There's not a single person on this planet who behaves in a certain way for no reason. Even if they say, I don't know, this is just how I'm feeling, their behavior means something. And when we understand that, we operate and we deal with people differently. If I understand you're doing something in a certain way for a certain, I always be understanding and to give you grace and a benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to allow your nasty attitude for the day to impact my attitude, because I choose not to show up and treat people that way. And so if this is the type of day you having, I'm going to let you have your day. And I'm going to let the Lord talk to you. I'm not going to try to correct your behavior unless you are my responsibility. And that's a totally different thing. If you work for me and you're on my team, or I am your direct leader, I will address your attitude, because your attitude is now impacting other people. If you show up to an event or to whatever we got going on and you being nasty, we're going to talk about it. Because I don't need other people's spirits to be broken because your spirit is off. And I'm also not going to hold it against you. You could show up today with the worst attitude ever. We talk about it, and I either tell you to step aside, fix it, whatever the case may be. Either you're going to fix it, or I'll see you on tomorrow. We're going to figure something else out. And if you show up tomorrow and you're fine, we don't even need to, it's okay. Yesterday was yesterday. It's today's today. When I was in the classroom, I used to tell my students all the time. How we interact today is today. You could be having a bad day. You're human. That doesn't change the fact that when I see you tomorrow, I'm going to speak to you. I'm going to ask you how you're doing. I'm going to hope your day is better. Because I'm not, again, my leadership capacity means I'm not going to hold it against you forever because you had an off moment or off day. That's also a choice. In spite of whatever it is that I'm dealing with. In spite of whatever it is you're dealing with, you have to make the choice to stay focused on the assignment. And I have yet to find any assignment that God has given that doesn't somehow loop around to how we love and treat people. God is never going to sign off on an assignment that you think allows you to continue to be nasty, even when you know that that's not how we should be conducting ourselves. Another thing that I want to point out that's really important, and something that I struggle with at times, is in the midst of your struggles, your challenges, your trials and tribulations, you must stay connected. It is really easy when you're going through something to isolate yourself for a number of reasons. The reason why I often isolate is because I don't want to put my burdens on others. And I'm grateful that I have people in my home who I can talk to when I'm dealing with certain things, when I'm experiencing certain things, when everything is not well. Because if I didn't, I probably wouldn't talk to nobody, to be completely honest. And that's something that I can be transparent about, that God is continuing to work on me. And sometimes He forces us to connect. There are people that, thank God, that God has put in my life, women who also have a strong connection with God, who also hear the voice of the Lord in the Spirit, and who stood with me when I was going through a situation that happened recently without me ever having to tell them, because God knew I wasn't going to say nothing. But God gave them an inside track to be like, she needs you. She needs the support. She needs the love. She needs the prayers. She needs all of that, because she's trying to carry this load by herself. And while she has the capacity to do it, I don't want her to have to. That's how much God loved me. Even when I'm just out here trying to do it myself, he always sends help, even when I don't ask for it. And that's love. This is why I wouldn't trade anything for this relationship, because I understand how much God loves me and how he sends me reminders all the time. But staying connected is so important, because there are people who want to help you through it. There are people who have been where you are and can give you some insight about what you're experiencing right now, who can simply, even if it's just something as simple as sharing their testimony, so that you know what is possible, so that you know that this season is not going to last forever, so that you can try to get on the other side of that. There are people that will hold you accountable. There are people who will cover you spiritually. Staying connected is important, and you know who those people are. I will not go to just anybody when I'm dealing with something. When I need the covering, when I need the support, I'm not going to just tap on anybody's door. Nope. Because there's some people that's just as much part of the struggle as anything. It's people that will be all in your business trying to figure out what's going on with you, and they're secretly hoping that you don't recover. They're secretly hoping that you aren't successful. They're secretly hoping that you don't come through it. There are people that want to be where you are, and their jealousy won't even allow it. Guess she ain't all that if she getting attacked like this. Not everybody wants to see you succeed and move forward. Discernment, again, important. God, show me who's for me. Show me who's against me. Show me who I should be going to. Show me who I should be connected to. And if you ain't showed me, it's been people that have tried to connect to me where God is literally like, this is not it. For a number of reasons. It's things that he shared with me about the person and the things that they're doing and that they have done, where God is like, disconnect. No, don't even. And I'm obedient. Sorry. But again, those words are for my protection. And I don't need anything to prolong the process. And people will try, because again, the distraction will keep you in a cycle where you're not actually getting to the place where God wants you to be, because you've allowed the wrong voices into your space to speak into the assignment that ain't got nothing to do with this. People we've talked, and I won't get too far left off of this, but we talk about there's people who don't understand your assignment. And so you're assigned to something, and because of their own experiences, their own fears, whatever, they don't believe that it's possible. That's not your problem. If God said it's possible, if he said that this is what he wants you to do in this season, that is all that matters. Nothing else matters. What they think, their opinions, their whatever else don't matter. Unless God tell you to listen to it. Now, there are certain voices that I definitely value. There have been times where I stay connected. I go to church. I listen to my bishop. I listen to co-pastor. I listen to even an apostle. I listen to the voices of reason. There are spiritual voices. There are ministry voices. There are all sorts of the connections, but not all sorts, because we talked about this. You don't let too many voices speak into you. But those who are trusted, who've been tried and true, and who I know what it is that the food that they're feeding me to keep my spirit up, that connection is so important during seasons of struggle. How many times a sermon has helped pull me through. Because I'm not just the type of person who just hears, who just listens to the sermons that come forth and just be in la la land. I apply what I'm hearing. I'm going to put it into practice. I'm going to be effective. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to do all those things. That's just the personality that I have. So that is necessary. That feeds my spirit when I'm dealing with something serious. In those moments when I do have to choose to kind of suffer in silence because of the nature of what is happening at the time, those are the things that keep me going. I need my spirit to be poured into in seasons of struggle and strife and trial and tribulation, because that is what keeps me my head above water. That's what keeps me positive, keeps me from going into a dark place, because I once upon a time dealt with depression and anxiety. I've talked about this before. So I'm always very intentional about making sure that I focus on seeing the glass half full, put on my sunshades, and keep it pushing, because I don't have time to allow myself to get roped back into that pit, which is so easy to get pulled down into, especially for those of us who've ever had that issue of dealing with anxiety or dealing with depression in any way. It can be a constant struggle. I thank God for deliverance and for years of him working with me to keep me from being in that place. There's a lot of people who struggle with that, and the time feelings, whatever it is that God is telling us to do, whatever he's saying, whatever his directives are, whatever it is, we must be obedient even when we don't feel like it. There's a scripture that says obedience is better than sacrifice. I have been that scripture nailed in on the inside of me years ago when I was young, in my early 20s. I have never experienced a time where I listened to what God told me to do and it did not come out in my favor. I understand that obedience is better than sacrifice. I will be obedient. God talks to me all the time and tells me all sorts of things. And sometimes I don't understand. And I've shared this before. There are times when he tells me things and I'm like, okay. But I do it. And every time I have been in the right place at the right time, in the right moment, in the right season, because I'm obedient to what he tells me to do. Struggles, trials, tribulations will come. But the purpose of a test is to come out with a testimony. That is the purpose. God does not send us into the fire so we can get burnt. He sends us into the fire so that we can come out of the fire unsinged, not smelling like smoke. That doesn't mean that it was not uncomfortable. Fire is hot. You might have even been sweating a little bit in that situation. But guess what? What you come out with is so much better, so much bigger. Daniel in the lion's den. Promotion. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Promotion. Job. Promotion. Joseph. Promotion. It's okay. Lean into really seeking God on what it is that he's doing in you and through you in these seasons of trials, in these seasons of tribulations. What is the purpose of this test? And where is this testimony going to take me? Because every testimony means that you are in a different place than you were. Years ago, I heard a minister talk about how, and I'm sure lots of you have heard this, about how when you are in the midst of the test, well, for one, when you go through training, so training of any type, there's going to always be some sort of assessment on the other side. And when we think about leadership and we think about our capacity, we think about how you should be building your spiritual muscle on this journey. That is part of the training. You think about a teacher in a classroom, the students are being trained in this area. Eventually, there will be an assessment. The test is going to come because the training has happened. But what happens when you complete the test successfully? Promotion happens, whether it's now you can move past that section of whatever it is you're training. It could be I take the test, I graduate. I take the test, I get the new position. I take the test, I get to have new opportunities. The test is necessary for you to get on the other side of whatever it is and move to the place where you need to be. And so we must keep this in the forefront of our minds. And I want to very quickly share a testimony about the fact that there have been, for the last couple months, I was experiencing some physical things happening in my body that were very unexplainable. I went to sleep one day and I woke up the next morning and I could not move or get out of bed. And there has still to this moment been no explanation for why this happened. And in the midst of this, there was the moment when it first happened of fear that came on me of like, God, what is this? And it was very interesting because this happened. It started the Monday. So I went to church on Sunday, great service. Sunday night, I go to bed. I was having a hard time sleeping in the middle of the night. Woke up Monday morning, and I literally could not move. Only times I needed assistance to go to the restroom. I couldn't stand up straight. It was just awful. And so fear immediately tried to come in, and I heard God's voice very clearly. He was like, "No, we're not going to be fearful about this. You know what to do," and I do know because I have gone in spiritual warfare, praying. I mean, like, gets busy. Okay. I spend days in a prayer room on my face doing what God needs. I already knew. So I immediately lay in the bed and I start praying. I'm praying, speaking in tongues, like just calling down heaven for whatever this is. Overnight on Monday, God puts me into a deep sleep. In my sleep, I have a dream where I'm on an operating table, and in the spot where I was experiencing pain, which was in my lower back, kind of in my joint area, kind of. I mean, it was just, I could see the surgeon, which all I could see was a light and a hand with like a surgical tool. And they removed this black cog that was embedded in like my joints. It looked like they had like literally pulled it out of my not my spine, but like to the left of it, was where I was experiencing the pain. But it was right in the same area where the pain had hit me, but it was black, like black, not like rusty, but like actually the color black. And when it was removed, it was laid onto the table that was sitting there where all of the instruments were being held. And then I could see in the dream I was being sewn back together in that spot. I woke up on Tuesday and I literally felt like someone had cut me open in the back. It was even so much to the fact that I had my husband look for an incision or something, because it was just, the feeling was literally like I was healing up from a surgery. And God just, I just kept hearing like, you know what to do, you know what to do, you know what to do. So I continue to pray. I'm praying, but I could move better. By Wednesday, my husband's like, are you going to go to church? And I was like, yes, like I'm going, I'm pressing. I went to service. I sat in the back. I was still in pain, I'm somewhat, but still moving better than I was on Monday, because Monday, literally, I was like, yeah, this it was a feeling unlike anything I've ever felt. Started feeling better. The next day was Thursday. It was my birthday. Was able to go out, sit up. I was uncomfortable, but no one knew. I still, just went through that. It was actually the day of prayer was on my birthday, and so I went to the prayer, and just continue to believe God through the process. It was a couple times, I started to feel better. By that weekend, I was feeling better. I, enjoyed my birthday weekend, having to being able to, relax and just have a good time and be at peace. Still taking it easy with my body, but felt 100 times better than I did. Maybe I was like 75%. Than I did when everything happened on Monday, and still the soreness back there as though I had experienced surgery. And I promise y'all can look up it. I didn't go through surgery, but it was just a reminder of God's faithfulness. And over time, I had a couple of days where like kind of the feeling, like maybe 2 weeks later, the just the discomfort kind of came back, but still not full force like it was that Monday. And, since then, this was like a 2 week period. And then I started to really feel better. I started to come back to myself. And so, of course, over time, we're here now. And it's just a reminder, during that time, no one knew what I was experiencing. God, as I mentioned before, there are two ladies that go to our church that I have really connected to spiritually. And they were like, one of them was, what's going on? We had a conversation about it. Another one was like, this ain't, as the way the conversation, it was very much a spiritual attack that I was having in that moment. And I really had to understand, like, I'm in a place right now where God is doing all sorts of things between, the publishing company, which he called me to, the assignments that he's put me on, even, the promotion that's happening. And so the enemy really is a place where he don't want me to get to that place. Like, he don't want me to understand what this is. And it was multiple things started to come out where it was literally a spiritual attack that was happening, and it was causing a physical manifestation on the inside of me that was happening outwardly. But I have no doubt that the prayers that went forth, not just my own prayers, but even in those connections between, really godly women who God has placed in my life to have those connections with, that it really helped me to get on the other side of that. And so I hope that encourages you to understand that God is faithful. It could have been a different situation. I believe people think whatever, that it really took place on behalf that wanted to take me out of here. Like, literally Monday, I thought I was dying. I am not. That Monday, not, a month ago, I really thought that if that's how it felt, my body was like trying to shut itself down. And me and God went into our secret place together, where he literally put me, I mean, I was in his space, and he did surgery on me in order to bring me back to, because I am on assignment. My assignment is not over, far from it. There's so much more that God wants to do in and through me. I cannot be bedridden. I cannot be shut down. I cannot be any of those things. I have work to do. God knows that, because he knows everything. He knows the end from the beginning. But I had to get to a place that I understood. Fear don't even have a place here, because I know what God promised me. And there are things that he promised me he haven't done yet, which means it's not time for me to go nowhere. My assignment is still short, even if I believe that a great part of this assignment is to be here. The struggle can become very loud and noisy and distracting, but your assignment is greater than that. It's louder than that. It's bigger than that. And so understanding what that is what is necessary to take you on the other side. I'm sure, I know we have examples that there are plenty of people who've experienced struggles where they're like, God, what is this? But God is like, you are the testimony. Someone needs to hear what I delivered you from so that they can believe what's possible for them, so that they can get on the other side of it. I've never experienced anything like what I experienced in those days at the beginning of this journey. But I know and believe what God did in that moment. I didn't eat cake or ice cream. As a matter of fact, during that time, I didn't have hardly an appetite. I've shared with you, I've been having dreams since I was a little girl. And they right on the money. God took me through a test for this testimony. There have been other tests that I've experienced in my life that have been part of the testimony. And for you, whatever it is you're going through in this season, no matter how difficult it may seem, God is doing something that's so much bigger than you. When the testimony happens, when the testimony comes out, when it all makes sense, be sure to share it. Because it's through our testimonies that we overcome. As always, if you need someone to support you on this journey, please do not hesitate to reach out. dpdei.com. I would love to work with you in any capacity. Also, because it is in much alignment with what God gave me for today. My newest book is out for purchase, From Test to Testimony, 14-Day Journey of Trust, Trials, and Triumph by ChèRee Wiley. It is available on Amazon. It's also linked underneath the video. If any of this resonated, this book was God telling me that it was time for me to share some of the things that he had done in my life, but as well to understand the connection between biblical references about how people in the Bible have overcome or did overcome trials and tribulations in order to come out on the other side with a testimony. And so the first 13 days of this particular book follows biblical examples of people who went through those experiences. The last day, day 14, and you can read it in any order that you like, I actually share 5 different testimonies from tests that I had to go through and I've had to go through. And again, it shows all the things about the obedience, how I have pushed through, because God has been very clear with me that I have work to do. The assignment was so much more important than whatever I was going through. And I have been through some things in this life. In these 41 years of life, I have been through some trials and tribulations, but God always walks me through, has always walked me through, has always been right there on this journey, and he will continue to do so. And so if you are in need of something to just motivate you to understand, or really to help you to just walk you through your own trials and tribulations in this season, I would recommend that you get this book, that you read it, that you mark it up. It has journal entries, all the things, but this is meant to be a blessing to you, a blessing on this journey that we call life, to understand that it's people in lots of places that have been through lots of things and they don't look like what they've been through. Lord knows I don't. I'm grateful I don't. And so just continue to understand that your assignment is what makes it all worth it. Because when we operate according to purpose, we have the opportunity to have the greatest impact on everyone connected to us. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your presence. And as always, if you need anything from me, want to connect, want to talk, want to, just learn more about yourself and what's possible, please do not hesitate to reach out. As always, I love you and I hope to see you next time. Be blessed.